Reports this afternoon that Tottenham are very close to appointing Antonio Conte as the new manager. And are Chelsea really out of the race for romelu Lukaku? Reports this afternoon of a supposed 100 million euro bid. I'm joined by a tier one this afternoon to break down all the latest transfer rumors in football. Hit that like button, hit that share button. Here we go. Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Thank you very, very much for tuning in as always. I'm joined by a very, very special guest this afternoon on the Football Terrace. I'm joined here now by Kristof, Terreur. I think I pronounced that as best I could. How are you?
I'm fine, and how are you?
I'm very well, very well. Enjoying the warm weather for at least 2 or 3 days here in London. Getting ready, of course, for the Euros and just trying to take in all these transfer stories and the transfer rumors that are flying around right now across socials. It's a busy time.
Yeah, it's definitely a busy time, but I think everything will slow down. All transfers will slow down once the friendlies have started, once the Euros have started. Usually it's quite quiet during a tournament. I remember being at the World Cup in Russia in 2018, and I accidentally stayed in the Brazil hotel. So I booked a hotel beforehand, and it ended up being the Brazil hotel. And on a morning, you could mix up with the players over there. It's like a family holiday hotel with the Brazilians, all very relaxed. The guests in the hotel can mix up with the players. And I was sitting on at the breakfast table, and I saw Alisson talking with his agent. So I googled, that face, Alisson agent, while I was having breakfast, and it's his agent. And they mentioned 3 clubs at that point, and that was Liverpool, Chelsea, and Real Madrid. They were talking about it. I didn't understand the word because my Portuguese is not that good, but it's things happen during tournaments, but moves can only happen after the tournament, medicals and stuff like that. So there's a lot of talk during, but the real moves will only happen after the Euros, I think. So players are waiting for that. Some players are just going into tunnel vision too. If they say, no, I don't want to get disturbed during the Euros. Belgium had issues in 2016 during the Euros when Batshuayi moved to Chelsea just before the game against Wales, and Thomas Meunier, he even did his medicals. He got permission to do his medicals with Paris, with PSG, just 2 days before the game against Wales. So that disturbs the camp a little bit. So,
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, and that's why it seems there's almost this flurry to try and get some deals done before the Euros begin. Because I think most clubs realize that once it starts, it's going to be a 3 to 4 week period, or at least until certain teams go out of the tournament. Very difficult to push forward. And I suppose one of the most important things to be in place before you can start signing new players is a manager. And Tottenham, of course, very close to announcing, according, Fabrizio's reported on it today. David Heitner, very respected sort of Tottenham-based journalist, have sort of said that Spurs are closing in now on the appointment of Antonio Conte. What's your take on his proposed move to Spurs?
Well, definitely, he enjoyed London when he was at Chelsea, and there was always the feeling that I want to go back to London. If I can go back to England, I would do it. Like the feeling that in Italy it doesn't always feel that respected. I think it's a bit like an underdog type of figure, and I think he really fancied the Tottenham project because he would have offered himself after he got sacked by Inter, or mutual consent. But anyway, he wanted to go. He had seen there everything. He'd won what he had to win. And I think he thought, I can't do better if they don't invest in this team. And he's always been keen on moving back to London. For instance, his little girl, his daughter, has been in school at least for 1 year longer while he was already in Milan, his daughter and his wife still spend a lot of time in London. His brother still spends a lot of time in London. So there was always that eagerness to go back one day. And if you get an opportunity like this, you take it if they pay enough money, if they promise you. I think they will have to make promises. They would have. Conte only signs when he feels it can become a winning project. So they must have promised him something. And I think it will be one of his biggest challenges. He's used to joining winning projects, and that's not what Spurs are known for in the last 25 years. So, but anyway, the signals I got was that Conte and Spurs were in talks and advanced talks at a certain point. So it's just about the money. And to be fair, negotiations with Conte are always quite difficult. In the last moments, you get a little bump sometimes because he really knows what he wants. And let's see when it's announced. Conte is still on holiday. You can follow his Instagram. He's enjoying the seaside. He's enjoying the food. But anyway, he wants to start again. But because he breathes and he eats football, he can't do anything without it, I think.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I think your point on the Tottenham project, I look at it going two ways. You know, they're not synonymous with winning and haven't been for a very long time. They have to have made serious promises to him. And the one thing I love about Antonio Conte, if a club goes back on its promises or they don't deliver what they said they were going to do, he just walks away. He just says, bye then, I'm off. I know my worth. I know my value. So this could be amazing for Tottenham, or it could be absolutely disastrous.
But if you look at the squad and you look at the system he's usually playing, and those players will be, to use his phrase that he liked to use in English, they must be ready to suffer. They will get lots of tactical training sessions. He's like the PlayStation manager. If he pushes the button, he wants you to move where he pushes the button, basically. They will have tactical training sessions, 11 against nobody, to make sure they're in the right position. Mm-hmm. And once you get that, if you look at Spurs squad and you're going to play 3-5-2, you have the wing backs to do it, like the energetic wing backs. You have them. And I think Pep Guardiola once told that the positional play that Conte uses is quite easy to implement. So if he can keep Son, if he keep Kane, if Kane says yes for Conte, I want to play. He's made Lukaku. He's pushed Lukaku to another level, so he can maybe push Kane to an extra higher level. So I see possibilities with Conte, definitely, because he's implemented his system everywhere quite easily. I remember following Italy during the Euros in 2016 before they played Belgium, and I saw in some games. I remember friendly game in Malta against Scotland. I saw them trying one long ball, and that long ball came back in the Belgium game, in their first game. That long ball was the one that made the first goal. So they really practice it. So he's a top class manager, but he will ask that he's supported with a few players that he wants to add to the team. I think he will sign a few players that he likes experienced players, to be fair, like a type of Olivier Giroud, for instance, was the one he always tried to get to Inter. He will now move to AC Milan, I think, but he will look for that kind of type of striker to add to the squad too. So he wants a strong striker. He already has Kane, but they need something extra, I think. So strike is always important for him, like tall, strong striker. And we'll see what he wants. Plus good wing backs, really good wing backs. So they might need another backup for the wing backs too. So anyway, but he will be fine as a manager, and he will challenge. They will be challenging to play against. Anyway, even if he doesn't get a lot of signings, to be fair.
Yeah, well, we saw what he did at Chelsea. He turned Victor Moses into for 2 years, turned him into one of the best fullbacks in the league, which nobody expected. So I'm sure he can get a tune out of some of the lesser players at Tottenham. And And as you say, he's got players like Son, Dele Alli, Kane, Ndombele that are fantastic football players. They really are. And I think I'm a Man United fan that's who I support, and I'm very nervous about his appointment because he's an elite. He's a world class manager, and there's only really Pep and Klopp that you might argue are better than him.
Yeah, but he's like a bit like Thomas Tuchel, like he's one of those disruptors that come in and disrupt everything. So you will have I think if you're a Man United fan, then you see that 4 of your direct opponents have really good managers, and even Leicester have a good manager. So it will be a tough competition for Champions League spots again, to be fair.
No doubt about it. Staying with sort of the Belgium theme from a moment, as we kind of touched on earlier with strikers, Lukaku. And yesterday you revealed on socials, it went crazy, the interview from Lukaku stating his desire to stay and play for Inzaghi at Inter Milan. It's kind of led to an interesting reaction across social media. Some Chelsea fans have waved the white flag and said, that's it. It's all over. There's no way he's coming. There are others that believe this could just be a kind of a bit of PR to save face if he does stay. But there is still this possibility he could go. There was a report this morning I read that said that Chelsea are preparing a 100 million euro offer to Inter Milan for the striker. In your opinion, someone who's well versed in these areas, how likely is it you think that Lukaku will leave Inter for either Chelsea or Man City now this summer after he's made this very public statement?
I think with the statement that he made, he will have a quiet Euros. He always goes into tunnel vision, like I said before, on a tournament. But I've learned not to exclude anything when players say something. But Inter have always been quite strong on it, that they won't sell him. And I don't think Inter can lose their face again. They've lost their manager. You can't lose your best player after a season like that. And they are trying to sell other players like Hakimi. There are talks with PSG. They're open for selling Lautaro Martinez. And from a financial point of view, I can see why they are struggling financially at the moment, but they have got some money already from an investment fund. But if you're selling your best player, I think your club will lose some value too. And I don't know if investors ask guarantees to a club. If we take over your shares, we still want a good team. Don't sell your best players. If I was an investor, if I was lending them 250 million euros like the Americans are doing, I would ask guarantees and ask them to at least keep their best players, because I want something value in the club. So I think it will be a difficult one for Chelsea, but we will see after the Euros. Definitely, Chelsea haven't made an offer as yet. They aren't encouraged at the moment to make the offer. But for instance, what happens after a few weeks under Inzaghi, if he's training under Inzaghi and he doesn't like it, or he sees, we are going to struggle. And Chelsea are a team that always waits to make a move. They're never the early ones. So maybe they can convince him. Maybe if Lukaku becomes the best player at the Euros or top scorer or something, he will have also the confidence to make the step to England, because he's loving life in Milano. His mum is happy in Milano. That's important too. His mum is always important in decisions. So we'll have to. It's one that will still come back. The rumor will keep on circulating until the 31st of August. But at the moment, that's what he tells people around him too. Yeah. He's not really focused on that move. But things can change quickly in football. If they make him the offer, you can't refuse. And he gets the confidence to go back to a league where basically he's seen everything. And he doesn't see that Inter is a winning project anymore. If they sell, for instance, Hakimi and Lautaro, I still want to see it. And they don't get good replacements, then I still want to see what a player as him is going to think. Oh damn, I'm in a team that might not win the league again.
Yeah.
And then the offer might come in, and then change your mind. So at the moment, chances are slim, but I'm not gonna exclude anything because I've thought that before with some moves. It's not gonna happen, and then suddenly the market starts rolling. There's money available. Man City, for instance, can't get their first striker, the first choice of striker, by somebody else, and then the market starts rolling. So everything starts rolling on the market. So no, I'm pessimistic at the moment. Definitely after the statement, it was not like with the, sometimes you see it in the body language that it's like, yeah, I'm gonna make just this statement and I don't mean anything. He even mentioned like, yeah, I don't know if I might reveal this already, but we have a new manager. Yeah, everybody knew that Inzaghi was going to Inter, and I've talked to him and had very positive talks with him, and that's also true. That's what he told people too, that it was all positive. He's got promises that the project at Inter, the cycle has stopped under Conte, but the project isn't finished yet. So now they will have to make those words count. They will have to keep their promises, and then maybe he will. He can always come back on that statement. Neymar was also staying in Barcelona, as we all know, and suddenly he ended up at PSG. Those are the kind of transfer sagas that when a player says something, for some players you believe it. With Lukaku, I tend to believe him, but yeah, you never know. He's very ambitious. So
yeah, and I get totally what you're saying about you never say never in these situations, and it does depend, as you say. He can come back from the Euros, and maybe they haven't replaced the Hakimis, etc., with better quality. Maybe he doesn't get on with the manager. Maybe him and Inzaghi clash and they fight and they argue, and he thinks actually Chelsea is a better option for me. So it'll be interesting. Chelsea themselves are, of course, they appear quite desperate for a goal-scoring striker. I know they've just become champions of Europe, but the Haaland links, the Kane links, the Lukaku links have been very, very sort of potent and free-flowing in the last few weeks. What's your sort of understanding of where else Chelsea may look for striker options in the summer? The big report came out last night from Sky Italy that Haaland is and always will remain the number one target for Chelsea. What's your thoughts and understandings on that?
Well, I know that there have been talks with Haaland's people before that. There have been contacts, but Haaland is a difficult one to predict too. Definitely, since Dortmund qualified for the Champions League, you felt that, yeah, now they have an extra reason to keep him. And if I am a club, I wait for the one I really want. And Haaland is young. He's 20 years old. He's the future. Lukaku, for instance, is already... He's turned 28. It's an investment where, there's always a risk. You will get the guarantee that he will score a few goals. I say, 20, 25, 30 goals a season. But Haaland is the one that everybody wants to get. And I would wait for him. It's never... I think as a club, sometimes you go for second or third choice. I don't understand that, like buying third choice. Just wait for something that you really want, not something that you have little doubts about. But yeah, it's not complete. He's maybe too old. Let's see. And maybe Timo Werner will come good too, because his runs are still good. It's only the scoring, and when he gets a chance, that he screws it. So we'll have to see. For me, even in the final, he makes the run that creates the space for Harvard. So he has added something in the final, and Havertz scored, and they really like Kai Havertz at Chelsea too. So should they can use a goal scorer, but is it really, really, really needed if you can't get your first choice or your second choice or your third choice, and then you end up buying younger unknown players? Like let's say if I look around in leagues everywhere, I would say Darwin Nunez of Benfica is like strong striker too. Doesn't score a lot of goals, creates some chances, some assists. That's like one next generation, but you don't know if he's ready for that step yet. And then you end up in that bracket, and then you could easily say, you can stick to Tammy Abraham, but who's an already experienced player in the Premier League. So I think they will have the same discussions as we are having now, like weighing up all your options and then decide. But if a player doesn't encourage you to make the move, the club will always go, if he's not 100% coming, is he worth the risk of 120 million? He will. Lukaku earns a lot of money at Inter too, because they have a beneficial. They have tax reducement that's as foreigners, so they will have to pay a lot of money too. They will have to make them the best paid player too. So every transfer is a risk. So
I totally understand. It's an interesting one when I look at Chelsea, because it does appear their first three choices, and I'll put them in no particular order for a moment, but Harry Kane, Haaland, Lukaku, they seem to be shopping at the higher echelons, as you say, the best strikers in the world that are available. We know they made, there's reports of inquiries into Aguero's and Lewandowski's early on as well, but they want someone who is established. As you say, going after a young up-and-coming striker may not be the best for them right now, considering they have a lot of those young players. They may then look elsewhere. There are some rumours that have been going around for 2 or 3 months now that Chelsea at some point are going to come into the Jadon Sancho race and try and take him away from what appears to be Man United leading the race to sign him. In terms of Jadon Sancho, we know personal terms have been agreed for what seems like about a year, 2 years now. Is that a deal that you think is going to happen before or after the Euros?
I don't think any big move will happen before the Euro. I have to speak with 2 words because English players are in England, so it's easier for them to get the medicals, of course. But it's getting tight to get all the negotiations done beforehand. So I don't see. I'd be wrong, but I don't see any big moves before the Euros happening. They can agree things and say, he will make his medicals, do his medicals in 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. But players can get injured too. That's why, for instance, Christian Benteke today signed a new contract. He signed a contract already a few days ago, of course, but he signed a new contract. It's just not taking a risk before you go to the Euros. Definitely, that's in the case of a free agent, by not signing before a tournament in case you get injured. So Giroud might do the same for AC Milan. Free agents want everything sorted before a tournament. You see that Eric Garcia has done everything with Barcelona. Aguero, free agent too. But for moves like Sancho, don't see it happening. Definitely also if Chelsea are involved, it usually goes slow.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Chelsea fans are aware of that as well. There was a final question that was posed to us yesterday. There's 2 final questions about players outside of the sort of the trending topics on socials. Lukaku's big, Sancho's big, the Conte situation is massive. There's 2 others. Jeremy Doku, currently at Rennes, I believe, young up-and-coming Belgian player, links with Liverpool. A lot of Liverpool fans asked me before your appearance today, saying, can you ask Kristof about the potential of Liverpool signing him? Is he likely to move this summer? Will it be Liverpool? What's the word on the ground?
We'll have to see how he performs on the Euros, if he gets a chance to perform. But I think it's too early for him. Liverpool could have signed him 3 years ago when he was 16 years old. So he got a tour around the training complex. He met Jurgen Klopp. There were praising words. It's like they got all the big guns out to convince him to join Liverpool as a 16-year-old. He has pace. He has a dribble. He has that bravery of a player that never gives up. He can make 1 dribble, 2 dribbles, 3 dribbles, 4 dribbles, lose the ball 4 times. At the 5th time, he makes an action and then suddenly creates something. At the Belgian camp, his teammates. So I always say players usually recognize good players when they've trained with them. In the Belgian camp, there's some players who say, that's our next generation. That's really, he can go to our level, the level we achieved. But he hasn't been consistent yet. And consistency is a keyword. I followed the young Kevin De Bruyne when he was 16, 18, 19 years old. Chelsea fans would have said when he played against them, and lost 5-0 when he was 20 at Stamford Bridge. He's not good enough. The De Bruyne of 10 years ago, he didn't have those stats. He just sometimes had those moments, just those little moments. And I don't think Jérémy Doku, for instance, will ever be a goal scorer or a big assist king, but he creates chaos. That's what some managers like. And he's like the type of player that you would like to see in the Premier League with the game that there is with lots of pace and counter-attacking the counter-attack. He would cope with that, but he's still usually, I've seen that with the Belgian golden generation, usually you need that step to a smaller team before moving to the big team. Look at Divock Origi, it's the best example, I think, of a transfer. Like, he was exciting at World Cup, but he hadn't made a real good season at Lille yet. Then he stayed one more year in France on loan. He was booed. He only made like 3 goals in that season and didn't make it. And you go big for a young, promising player and then don't get the chance to develop him. You push him out alone. Like for instance, players like Kevin De Bruyne, romelu Lukaku always say they've joined the top club quite early. I don't think they will do it again, because what they say is, you can't say no again when a top club comes around and throw money at you, but you need stability. Like, as a young guy, 2, 3, 4 years at a team that regularly plays in Europe, and it's in those European games that scouts and other managers see if you can cope with the level, with the pressure. And Doku has only played now his first Champions League campaign at Anderlecht. He wasn't. They never qualified for Europe in the last 2 years. He couldn't establish himself, so he needed that new step. Roberto Martinez, who'd already taken him with the national squad, encouraged him to make that step to a team that regularly plays in Europe, and paid a load of money for him. That's pressure on him. To 27 million for a player. It's not an established top team in France. It's in between. It's one who had a really good season a few years ago, 2 years ago, and then this season wasn't going that well. He had a season with ups and downs. So I would say, if I was his advice, I would stay for one more season, unless he explodes at the Euros and you can't. Then if you score a few important goals at the Euros, you get those Renato Sanchez moves, and suddenly the next big thing on the tournament is always bought by a top club.
You have to be careful. I'm old enough to remember Karol Poborski being brilliant in 96, and Man United bought him, and he was good, but he was never that was his best. And El Hadj Diouf at the World Cup for Senegal, I believe. Yeah, these moments can happen. It's an interesting one. Another Belgian player, just very quickly, Batshuayi. Leeds United have been linked with him. Is there any truth in him potentially joining Leeds United and Bielsa?
Well, it's the second season in a row that he gets linked to Leeds United. But from his point of view, they have Rodrigo up front, they have Bamford up front, so he will have to fight again for his place to get into that team. He knows Bielsa, of course. He had his best season under Bielsa at Marseille, but it's already 5 years ago, and since then, it's only gone backwards for him. So I can see that it's linked, but some people just denied it that there was any interest. I know he's been offered last year to Leeds, and I can see why it's coming back. He will be offered again. Chelsea want to offload him, looking to teams too where they still have a bit of money. I think Leeds can do with another striker, so it can be a possibility. But at the moment, there haven't been any strong signals that it's happening, but it can go fast. It's like one that might happen before the Euros, although he can't leave the Belgium camp anymore because there are COVID restrictions. He can do, of course, his medicals in a hospital in Belgium, which happens during tournaments too. But it's quite close to a tournament, so deal might have already been agreed, but it's his agent in principle with the club. As I understood yesterday, there hadn't been any negotiations between the clubs as yet, so we'll have to see. But for him, it's Yeah, he needs a new start. He's lost
think,
a lot of time.
Yeah, he does, and I think he could be brilliant at Leeds. I think that they just would suit him. If Bielsa wants you, it means he loves you already. He doesn't buy. Bielsa is that kind of man. He'd rather not sign somebody, rather than get a fifth, sixth, seventh choice. He wants these players. If you get them, who he wants to have. I think it'd be an interesting move for him. Just very quickly, Alex Crook, Spurs journalist, is now reporting via TalkSport that Antonio Conte to Tottenham is a done deal. That's just been sort of pushed out on social media now. So that's an interesting one. I'm sure you'll drop a little text to your friend and see what's going on at some point soon. That'd be an interesting one to see if that's announced tonight.
Yeah, let's see if they get to the announcement, because he probably is still enjoying the seaside and just waiting for that phone call and for the document to sign them off, and then he will check the documents and say change this or change that. So yeah, we'll have to see. But anyway, yesterday the signals were already positive, and at Spurs, I was only told a few weeks ago by some agent when other managers were linked that they have some money. Although they you don't expect them to have the money, but that they wanted to invest in the team. So Conte will have had that promise. I think at Inter they had like a similar transfer budget as Spurs would have. You understand, like 80-100 million. It was not that Inter that they had bags of money either. So if he gets the right players in, yeah, and I think he will go for a few Italians. I don't think they can afford Lukaku, and that Lukaku wants to join Spurs, to be fair. So there were links already in Italy that he would like to bring Lukaku with him. Don't think that one will be happening. He wants to play Champions League football next season.
Yeah, of course. Could it not even happen, if I'm playing devil's advocate here, if Kane was to leave and Lukaku was offered that you are going to be the main number 9, you get to play for Conte? Would that? You don't? Could he be tempted to Spurs in that way?
Never say never unless they pay like 3 times what you're earning at Inter, I think. And but then you get in the same situation again. A project where he's winning at Inter. They have a team that can compete for a second league title again. At Spurs, you're not sure. So I think it's more ambitious at the moment than playing for a team like Spurs. Definitely the level he's at the moment. But anyway, I'm not sure if Kane will be leaving, because he will cost a lot of money too. I know that Man City want him, and Man City have a budget available for a striker, but they have to talk with Daniel Levy, and that's always very, very, very. Asked Alex Ferguson what is this? It's like the guy who turns the negotiator of the other club around to shake the last penny out of his pocket. So it's a difficult one to negotiate with. If I was Antonio Conte, the first thing I would ask, don't let Harry Kane go.
Yeah, I would be saying exactly the same thing. And you know, Harry Kane might fancy playing for him. And like you said with Man City, it might take one gargantuan bid or transfer to set the market off this year. Yeah. So if they have got this money that I saw ESPN talking about today, in terms of the owner saying they will give Pep whatever he wants, you know, they do stick £150 million bid in, maybe that changes the dynamic, but that could then be the trigger to set. You know, because if Harry Kane goes to Man City, Chelsea might look at it, and as you said earlier, they spoke to Haaland's people. They're weighing up a move. City signing Kane might be the trigger for Chelsea to say, right, we have to go for Haaland now, because we can't compete against City without him, you know?
Yeah, it's just waiting for that first big move. Yeah, we know that probably Messi will sign a new deal. That was one that I thought a few months ago. That's the trigger for the market. Mbappe is another one. Is he staying at PSG? Is he moving to Real Madrid? Is he moving elsewhere? There are moves that still need to happen too, but that's something for after the Euros and during the Euros, I think, where the wheels start rolling. I also have agents telling me that they don't expect a lot to happen, to be fair. Lots of talk, lots of attempts to create a market, but nothing really happening because the elite. It's the elite. There's a small elite with lots of money, but like the clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, they don't have a lot of money. Bayern tends not to spend that much money. Atletico are not. They have money, but not a lot. So you only have a few ones. Liverpool are quite cautious. Recently, Manchester United haven't been splashing the cash either.
Yeah.
So you get a market where there's not a lot of money available like it was 2 years ago. They will have like prospect that fans will come in again. They will have that money, but they still will have to pay for pay off of the last 2 years. The corona gap in the finance, in the budgets. They will still have to pay that off. So yeah, teams like Man City can always gamble when you have a credit line to a rich owner. Like even Chelsea, you always can spend in a way, but still, and financial fair play isn't that strict anymore. So
it even exists at all ever. No, I hear.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it still exists.
Yeah.
It's something that's up in the air. So we don't know, but still, teams will have seen what the pandemic has done so far with them. Like Barcelona, they have gambled. They have gambled every single season, and they're now in big trouble financially. And they, of course, there will always be banks. It's such a strong brand. So there will always be banks that would like to offer money and lend money to a club, but.
Absolutely. Just we had a super chat that came in here from one of the live viewers. Very quick. I know you've got to shoot off, but he says, "Do you think Conte coming to Spurs could entice Christian Eriksen to return?"
That's a difficult one. He still likes Spurs, but his relationship with Conte at the beginning wasn't that good. He needed time to adapt, and Spurs are not the team that are going to spend big to get an old player back, a former player back. So not at the moment, not seeing that also because Eriksen has had a good second part of the season. So and found his way at Inter, and everybody knows probably why he left Spurs was to win something with Inter. And with Inter, even if they sell one player, there's still those prospects of winning something. And he's also I think he also turns 27, 28. It's not Premier League teams usually tend to go for younger players than because the Premier League is so demanding. You usually see Premier League teams buying players between the age of 21 and 26. So it's not the one that Daniel Levy will make a big gamble on. The day wouldn't have forgotten, I think, why he left. So
that makes sense. Kristof, I really appreciate you coming on with us today and speaking to us and letting us know what you know and giving us your views and opinions on things. It'd be great to get you on again in the future to talk to the audience. I know lots of lovely comments from the live viewers. They say it's great to have. They consider you a tier one. That's a big thing on socials, being a tier one journalist.
Yeah, but it's like the pressure that it's comparable to the pressure that the big players have. Don't like compare it to a goalkeeper. You can't make a mistake anymore. If you make a mistake, then you go to tier two. It's that simple. If I say now Lukaku, he isn't leaving at all, and then in a few months he leaves them. They might come back to you. They will remember that.
What's interesting,
of
course, I think what's interesting is I always say this in fairness to when it comes to journalistic approaches to like transfer news. You only know what you're told. If you phone Antonio Conte now and he says yes, I'm joining Tottenham, and you tweet that, you're telling the truth as far as you know it. But then if Daniel Levy phones up Antonio Conte in hours, actually, we can't afford to pay you 20 million a year. It's only going to be 15, and he walks away. You're not the liar. You didn't have the wrong information. It just changed. It's
but it's still like two sources and being sure that something's done. That's basically usually when something is waiting. It's waiting for the moment that you're actually sure that it's going to happen. That's I think like even. guys like Fabrizio Romano, who's the transfer god on all social media, he waits for the right moment too. Like when you're completely sure that it's going to happen. It's like usually when a player steps on a plane for his medicals, then it's the moment to tweet. It's like when I got a message that Eden Hazard had been told that he was joining Real Madrid. That's the moment when you tweet. And yeah, if he fails his medical, that's something you can't control, but that's something you can. That's something you always can tweet, or you can send out a news. He's failed his medical. It happens. Usually, failed medicals don't happen a lot. To be fair, it's just that often they're gonna renegotiate. They're gonna renegotiate
the deal. Yeah, absolutely. The bill for Fekir at Liverpool, he signed his welcome to Liverpool video, did his interview in a Liverpool shirt, and then it fell through. So the poor journalist who said that was a done deal, I wouldn't have wanted to have been them on that day.
Yeah, that done deal, and then you add, but he still needs to go through his medical. So. Yeah, but it happens. It has happened to all of us. I think that we had information, and then in the end, the deal didn't materialize. But yeah, you get used to it. But definitely on Twitter, for instance, I'm always quite cautious nowadays not to make. I've had a few deals like Fellaini just before it was announced to Manchester United. I think that's still the one that cost the most energy. And it sucked the most energy out of me too. That was Fellaini to Manchester United, because I knew I was with Fellaini for an interview somewhere at the end of May, that he got the phone call that David Moyes was joining Manchester United. I did an interview after the season with him, and they couldn't say anything. But I did the interview, and suddenly I had to change some answers. They asked me, don't put that quote. Don't want that quote. Moyes is like my second daddy in the interview. And then I started with that. One and one is two. And then they always keep saying, they're interested. But that deal kept on dragging on. I knew they were waiting in the car outside the Man United training complex to sign the deal, but they couldn't agree. And I get sometimes I get like updates. It's still not happening, and then you get that text message from somebody who's close to him, like 5 minutes before the deadline. It's done. It's done. And then then you tweet it out, and then you still have to wait a long time before they officially confirmed it, because they still needed to do some paperwork. But that's the one I'm the most proud of. That's the one I think really broke a one. Kevin De Bruyne to Manchester City was one of them too. When I even at a certain point I tweeted out that they were offering that the bid had gone in already, or that they are planning to make the £50 million bid.
Yeah,
and that they hadn't pressed enter yet. So they had agreed. They don't send out. They hadn't. Wolfsburg didn't have the bid yet, and Man City hadn't pressed enter, but they were planning to make the bid. So
I used to work in football, so I used to be a private banker. So I looked after a lot of the international Premier League players that would come over. We'd set up their bank accounts, credit lines in the UK. So I had a very good relationship with a lot of clubs' player liaison officers. They would contact us and say, there's a player that's maybe joining next week. Can we arrange you to come into the offices, say on the training complex on the Wednesday? You'd always have an idea of who the person was going to be, because we had to do like really boring, like enhanced due diligence due to the levels of money going through the accounts. We had to have an idea who they were. And some of the times Arsenal signing X or Man United bringing in Y. And then maybe you'd get a call the morning of or the day before where they'd say, cancel that now, deal isn't happening. And so the club thought it was happening and pushing forward, and then at the last minute it would just fall away. And I was always told this by a player liaison officer, that you can have a done deal, but what you really want is a deal completed. Deals can be done and agreed verbally, there can be handshakes, there can be preliminary paperwork drafted, but it can still go wrong. Players have sat on medical tables, like Willian was on the medical table of Tottenham, and then he ends up being a Chelsea player 3 or 4 hours later. So it's an interesting world.
Yeah.
It's very exciting as well.
Fax machines. Like I'm gonna tell you, as we're talking about Fellaini, I'm gonna that I will finish with that one. It's one that David Moyes once told, how difficult it was to get Fellaini to Everton. So the first deal. So they had negotiations on deadline day, and in the afternoon, in a club, in a private club somewhere in London, they agreed the deal. Then Moyes had to rush to, I think, Luton Airport to take the plane to Belgium. And it was one of those propeller flights, like a really bumpy flight over the channel. Then they landed in Brussels. Then they ended up in a hotel. First, there were furnished work. So, yeah, it was a building site, a hotel at the airport. So they didn't find Fellaini. They didn't find Fellaini and his dad, so that slowed down everything. So he first had to convince the player, you can join, explain the plans. Then everything was agreed. Then they didn't find a fax machine in the hotel. So big panic. The fax machine in the hotel, they found one. That one was not working. So they had to go into rooms, and the guy, I think it was the club secretary, was really in panic. I'm not going to find the fax machine. And then, yeah, suddenly they found I think it was somewhere in a room, like a business room where they had the fax machine. They found one, and they got the paperwork in just in time. But that's where a deal can collapse on not in those days, not finding a fax machine. Nowadays, it can happen like the local Wi-Fi has gone down. Help, the 4G is not working here because there are too many people. We can't get the papers through, so or we can't log into the TMS system. So sometimes it's, but yeah, they could have planned it in advance. Of course, don't wait till the last day.
Yeah, I mean that must have been that sounds like an old fashioned sort of 80s or 90s American comedy with like what's his name? Thingy Candy. Forget his name. But you know, just like rushing around, one thing, planes, trains, and automobiles, one thing going wrong after another. It's amazing to get that insight. Thank you very much, Kristof. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much for coming on, having your say. It'd be really great to speak to you again later on in the summer and catch up and see how things are going.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna check some things on Conte now because yeah, I've now spent 14 minutes of my time on this, and yeah, now I need to catch up with what I missed on this 40 minutes. That's the way it goes in our job. So
mate, I totally get that completely. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye. And yes, John Candy is the name. Thank you, Kristof, for coming on, having your say. He actually said we went. I didn't know he was coming on. I did know he was coming on, but he hadn't come back to me all day. And I sent him out all the links and the topics, and then just he was there, and I was like, oh, so ready to go. So I wasn't prepared. He said he'd do 20 minutes. He ended up giving us 47 minutes of his time. So massive thank you to him for coming on and having his say. We are going to take your calls. We do want your views. We do want your opinions. In relation to this news today, lots to unpack and digest in relation to what Kristof Terreur had to say when it comes to Lukaku. Deal not over, deal not dead, deal not finished. Watch this space. A lot can change in that situation. In relation to, I will quote this, in relation to what was said about Haaland, he says there's been talks with Haaland's people. It's another difficult one. They're going to weigh up all their options and then decide. So Chelsea still this summer could sign Haaland, and they could still this summer sign Lukaku. There's lots of moving parts. There's no doubt about it. But as Kristof said, they're unlikely, and he wouldn't advise them if he was talking to them, and it's never his experience with Chelsea, that they would go for a fourth choice, a fifth choice, someone lower down that pecking order. They may look to replenish the squad elsewhere. What was interesting about the Jadon Sancho deals, Harry Kane, Haaland, all of them, is it's highly unlikely that any of these deals are going to go through before the Euros begins. There's a lot of talk that Dortmund wanted Sancho done before then, and they may very well have done. It does appear, as days go by, there's more of an understanding across all football clubs that these deals are not going to be done before the Euros begins. Transfer news will slow down during that time. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. We are going to open up the lines for you all to come on and have your say, but do me a big favor while we're still here. Smash that like button for us. Very, very important to the Football Terrace that you hit that like button, that you share the stream on your social media platforms as well. And we will take out a lot of the clips and repost them so people can see what was said. What is this here? Junior says, Terry is just recapping what was said. So before you haters start saying, oh, he's lying. Listen, I only pass on the news that journalists give us. And, I don't have any inside information. I just talk to journalists that know their knowledge and they give information and we share it. If people choose to disagree, they can choose to disagree. But we went through quite a bit. We spoke about quite a lot there. I want your views and opinions on what was said. I'm going to open up the lines. But since we've been live on the air, reports that Antonio Conte to Spurs are done deals. But as Kristof just said, these deals can be done and agreed. Doesn't mean there can't be a change or something happen later on down the line. How excited are Tottenham fans about him coming in? But as Kristof knows him as well. He did say this to me behind the scenes. He knows Antonio Conte personally, has his phone number. He will be contacting him right now. So Kristof may very well be tweeting something very, very soon in relation to that deal at Tottenham. He seemed quite infused, but very much the same train of thought as a lot of fans. He needs to sign people. He needs to have his promises. What's the word I'm looking for? He needs to have his promises delivered in relation to that. No real update on Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, other than the fact that the deal is very unlikely to go through before the Euros begins. But listen to what he was saying earlier. That isn't something to be panicky about, Man United. Dortmund may have wanted it done before then, but the understanding is in football that no one is expecting any major deals to go through between now and then. So you may see a Man United hit a problem. A lot of people think that's normal. A lot of people think that is peach. Blue Viper, I could eat peaches for hours. Interesting comment, but thank you very, very much for the super chat. What's going on in the live chat fit functions here, people? I keep seeing people saying, why the salt? I don't really get what anyone's frustrated about. No worries, bro. We've got more on the way. We've got some stuff, very big stuff in the pipeline. The shows will look a little bit different from this. We're just designing the sets, the graphics, and animations to go with it. You will see some big changes coming soon on the Football Terrace. Don't you worry about that one. But we're going to share the link now in the live comment section. We want you to be able to come on. We want you to have your say. We want you to tell us what you're thinking and you're feeling. Terry, you also said that Chelsea may be interested in Sancho. Worried? Yeah, of course. I said that earlier. If Sancho, if Spurs, if Chelsea start making genuine attempts and inroads in to Sancho, I would be worried, no doubt about it. Let's do some more of your comments here. Sancho, to us, I hope Chelsea get Haaland, but only problem is that I don't know if Dortmund will sell both in one window. I think it's about the size of the money that's offered. I think that's the big important part here. How much money is being offered? That is what is going to be key with any of these potential deals. I don't think there's any doubt about that whatsoever. Thank you to one of our members here. Says that was a great interview, Terry. No, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Many, many more to come. We have a super chat here from Philip Hunt. Philip says, my prediction is that City won't win the league next year due to a transitional period. Liverpool and Chelsea title race is most likely. Now that is an interesting take. That is an interesting take indeed. StreamYard link has been shared if you want to come on and have your say. We're going to go to Joy here. Joy is coming on to have his say. What are you saying, Joy? Oh, I think your signal bugged out a little bit there. Can you hear me? Yeah, we can't. Oh, there we go. What are you saying, buddy?
Yeah, I'm a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, what do you want to say, my friend?
I think Romelu Lukaku's deal should be a better deal than Haaland. I mean, he already has experience in Premier League as well as he's proved it in Inter also. So he's developed a lot with Antonio Conte. Don't you think that? And he can absolutely fill the gap with the striker role in Chelsea. He can hold the ball as well as he can let link up with Werner as well as Havertz or Ziyech. That would make Chelsea's counter attack even more deadly and finishing also.
Yeah, I think it would be a brilliant deal. I think it would be a brilliant deal for Chelsea. There's no doubt about it. But as Kristof said, I think Lukaku would like to come back to Chelsea. I do think there's a genuine. He didn't say this. This is my view here. I think he would like to play for Chelsea. I think he would love to come back and prove people wrong in the Premier League. At the same time, it's going to depend upon how he feels in Italy. He's comfortable out there. He's enjoying himself. If he goes back to training after the Euros and doesn't like the state of the squad, the direction the club's going in, doesn't get on with the new manager, that could change things seriously. Chelsea themselves are weighing up what to do. And I said the other day that the Lukaku thing dragging its heels was always a good thing for Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea wanted to rush into any decisions. They tend not to do that with their big signings.
Plus, even Lukaku wants to be feel important, right? If Chelsea goes completely on him, he would actually accept that and he could join us as in the team. But if he finds that there's already links with other strikers, he may not feel valued a lot. That's what happened between when he joined Man U also, right? He didn't feel that connection from the board. That's what scares me. Like, if we can't get anything, what's going to happen? Because we don't have that particular striker, out and out striker.
But I think what you'll do as a club is you'll strengthen elsewhere and you'll wait for a adequate player for that position. What you don't want to do is go. What you don't want to do is say, no Haaland, can't get Kane, can't get Lukaku, can't get Martinez, can't get Andre Silva.
Don't go for the fifth option.
Put him on a 4-year deal. You don't want to scrape the barrel like that when you're shopping. You're trying to shop at Harrods here. That's where you need to maintain. If you can't get the player that you need, you move on to another area of your squad and maybe you revisit the striker position in 12 months' time or so. Bro, Joy, thanks for coming on and having your say. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Top man, thank you. Next caller on the show is going to be Ryan. Ryan's a Chelsea fan. What are you saying, Ryan?
Yo, what's up, Terry? I was just talking about the Conte to Spurs thing. I'm seeing a lot of Spurs fans, they don't want Conte. Now, listen to this. If Conte wins an FA Cup, or even, God forbid, as a Chelsea fan, a Premier League, he will be their most successful manager in, the last 70, 80 years. How can you not want that? He can turn players like, I don't know, like your, what's his name? Sergio Reguilon. He'll turn them into world beaters. That's what he does. And Spurs' squad, I think Spurs' squad is very decent. It's just that no one's been able to get a tune out of them. Players like your Dele Allis, they're going to go because he's had a few problems with managers now that he doesn't work hard enough. And if you don't work for Conte, you're out. He doesn't want you. And in terms of the Lukaku thing, I think it's a lot of smokescreen. We've seen players throughout the years always say that, I'm very happy here, happy there, blah, blah, blah. And then a month down the line, they've left. So I think we're fine. But if we don't get our top striker this year, I would like us to get our top DM. I think that's the second position that is the most important after the striker. And in terms of Jadon Sancho, I would love him at Chelsea if we don't get a striker as well. I think he'll do bits here.
Mate, I agree with so much of what you said there. Like, legitimately, I couldn't agree more with a lot of what you said about this. Do you know what I think it was some Spurs fans, bruv? Some Spurs fans, how do I put this? There is almost this, they almost have this safety net of not being expected to do well. So I think some would have been happier with an underwhelming manager because it would have meant that nobody would expect them to do well. As soon as the expectations come on board, it's like they want to run away from it. They want, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to see this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want any of it. For me, it is an absolute madness, really, if that makes sense. Antonio Conte, and we spoke about this with Kristof, and I want to make sure I say this in the right way. I stand by this. I would say Pep's had a better managerial career than him because of the Champions Leagues. You've got Tuchel and Klopp that on a European basis have done better. But domestically, he would be the second best manager in the Premier League instantly with the titles he's won.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy to me that Spurs fans are not jumping for joy.
If you want to succeed Chelsea, if you want to be as good as Chelsea, like all the Spurs fans go on about, then you have to have this winning mentality that Chelsea fans have. You know, We at Chelsea, if it doesn't work, you're out the door. You've got to have that mentality if you want to win at the top. I mean, you look at the Prem now, it's stacked with managers. You've got to be ruthless. And all these Spurs fans saying, yeah, we want to win something, then prove it, you know? I don't know.
They don't want to win. I don't know. I think they want to win, but they don't want the pressure that comes with that. You know, like if you're not a big club, you're never in the mud, are you? So I've been accused recently of, like, when there was all the links with Southgates and Potters and Martinez, you're just trying to put us in the mud, Terry. I'm not. I'm reporting, like I do with every top 6 club, what's being said, what's out there, gathering fan opinion. It isn't about trying to put Tottenham down. Ironically, when they do something good and I say, wow, the expectation should be higher, they're like, don't do that to us. I don't like that kind of mentality. It's why I've got a lot of respect for expressions. Me and him spoke about this a couple of years ago. He wants Spurs winning the big trophies. He wants to be challenging up there with the Chelseas, the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, the Cities. Maybe not Man United and Arsenal, but do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of wants them winning these major trophies. And I respect Spurs fans that come out and say that directly, my guy. Ryan, great call. Thanks for coming on and having your say. Top man. Thank you. We're going to keep your super chats coming in. Make sure you smash that like button for us as well, please. Big reports this afternoon coming out that Spurs have got the deal agreed now. Breaking news: Spurs are set to appoint Antonio Conte as the new manager. That has come from Alex Cook at TalkSport. I'm seeing a lot of Spurs fans defend him and say that he is of good level. He is of good caliber of journalist. So it's interesting to see how this comes now. We've had nothing from Fabrizio in terms of here we go. But lots of traction in relation to that. We're going to get Alan on in a few moments, who is a Spurs fan, to have his say with us. But we need that like button hit. We need you to subscribe and turn on that bell notification button as well. We don't ignore super chats here very much. We've got Nima here that's put one in that says, Terry, what do you make of AFTV discriminating against Mo's Palestinian flag? For me, I've listened to both sides. It's not something I've commented on publicly in terms of made content about it or anything else. I've listened to both sides say what they've got to say. And do you know the worst part is, for me, I've known Robbie a long, long time. I've got a lot of respect for him. He's helped me out a lot in my life. So I've got a lot of respect for him on a personal level. So I trust what he says to me. At the same time, I've never met or spoke to Mo, but he's never come across to me as someone that is a liar either. It's a really difficult situation, a really horrible thing to see happen to people that got on and were friends. My view is very much this: when it comes to these kind of scenarios, people are free to express themselves in the way in which they want, and I think that's fair. From Mo's point of view, to want to be able to wear a jumper, wear a slogan, wear a badge that he feels strongly about, and I think that in itself is something that I would personally respect. The same as if somebody was appearing on that show wearing something that was in support of Israel, that's their personal choice. That's my sort of view on it. In terms of who's done what, said what, who's telling the truth, I simply don't know because I'm not involved. I've listened to both sides of the story. I haven't delved into it. I haven't reached out to anyone to find out what's going on because it isn't my business. But that's kind of my view on that. And in terms of sort of suppressing people, that isn't something that I agree with. But thank you very much for the super chat. I can't say much more about it than that because I just don't know. And I get everybody's gripes. I legitimately do. And that's you to take up with them. It's not something that I'm going to personally get involved with in relation to that. But it's a super chat. We don't ignore super chats, generally speaking. We do if they're, Terry, what's your political opinion on something? I don't get involved in any of that live on the air. As I say, it's between themselves. It's just a sad state of affairs. But more importantly, I just hope that things within the region get resolved as soon as possible and everybody's safe and healthy and everything else. Next on the show, Alan is here with us. Thank you very, very much, mate. What are you here to say, buddy?
Here to talk about Spurs and Conte. For me, he is the manager we need. We should be doing everything we can to get him. Like I've said previously on here, I'll take him over Poch. Proven winner. Just the mentality of the way he manages teams on the sideline. I think that's the type of manager or figure we need. Daniel Levy needs to give him whatever he needs for him to come in because we need now to be able to be considered contenders. I heard what you said to one of the previous callers. It seems like with Spurs fans, there's always an excuse to get out of it. Like, oh, we're not considered to be title contenders. Let's be the underdogs. I don't want that. I want to be challenging. I want people to take us seriously. I want us to win stuff. And for me, it has to be Conte. I don't want Poch to come back, considering that the same people are in charge that were there when it left and went sour. The same players that put down tools for him. Don't get me wrong, Poch has been our best manager in my lifetime, but why would you want to come back to something that was broken before that hasn't necessarily been fixed in that time period? So for me, it has to be Conte. You know, we should go all out for Conte. There should be no other manager. And to be fair, he wasn't one of the managers I had on my list at the beginning because I never deemed him to be gettable. But for somebody of his caliber to now be that close, we just need to go all out and get him.
Mate, I could not agree with you more. Just very, very quickly, breaking news from Paul Joyce. Trent Alexander-Arnold is out for 6 weeks. He will miss the Euros, which in itself is sad news for him. After the whole kerfuffle about him being in the squad, it's there we go. And I mean, I'm intrigued to know who's going to replace him in the squad now. That's going to be an interesting one in relation to who's going to come in and whether they go for another right defender or whether they. It'd be interesting. His replacement for me would signal where he's going to predominantly play, if that makes sense. Like if Ward-Prowse comes in as a replacement or Jesse Lingard, then it gives you an idea that he was going to be used in a more sort of forward position in relation to that. But back to your point about Spurs, I completely agree. This is the kind of signing a manager that you need. It's bold, it's brass, you know, and as you know, he's going to need money to be spent as well for it to work. And there has to be there's the encouragement there that Conte is going to want money to be spent, quality players to come into the football club, and if that's done, you are going to move forward. He has been an absolute success domestically. Every single club that he has got in for. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, he, like you said, there's still the reason why I'm a bit confused as to why we're that close to signing him is because there's still too many variables. So the Harry Kane situation, he wants assurances that Kane's going to be there. How can that be assured by Daniel Levy? Is it false promises like he's done with every other manager? I don't know. Conte and the director of football looks like it's coming with him, like to spend money. We don't like to spend money. Have we made guarantees that's going to happen? If so, that would be the first time in my lifetime where Spurs actually go out and spend a lot of money on loads of players, because normally it's trying to find second or third choice or buy one big player and maybe one or two cheaper versions. So there's still so many, you know, things to get my head around as to how we are, you know, making these promises to Conte that he's going to come to us. Could it be for the first time that we are actually going to act like a big club in the transfer market and spend big? I would love to see it. I'm still not convinced, but with saying the right things or for it to be progressing with Conte, maybe with everything that's happened recently with the Super League and that, maybe Daniel Levy's woken up and, you know, we have to progress and we have to do it our own way rather than try and like maybe get Super League where we get loads of money for it. We have to show willing and ambition. And if we do, then hopefully we'll be there challenging or, you know, in the mix for cups, which we need to be, because it's for far too long. Like I said, we've always been the bridesmaid, never the bride, and I want us to win trophies, whatever trophy it may be.
You're absolutely right about what are they promising?
Yeah,
you know, if I was Antonio Conte, I would put there's a report today of a 20 million euro offer a year like contract, which is I think it's end up it's like 6 or 7 million more than he was on at Inter. There's almost just part of me, if I was Conte, where I'd say, right, I want that level of money and I want a 4-year deal. But if you don't maintain these promises, I walk away and you pay out my contract. I would almost set it up in that way. Like you'd want him to do that. If that makes sense, you almost need to set it up where Levy and your board are between a rock and a hard place where you either back him or you lose him and you hemorrhage money financially anyway. And that's going to be the interesting one for me. A lot of the reports have also said, which must be music to your ears, that part of the deal is that they do not sell Harry Kane this summer.
Exactly. For me, if that is doable, I don't know how that can be agreed. But like I said previously, I don't think Harry Kane's going to be the type, if Daniel Levy goes, well, you're in a contract. I don't think Harry Kane will down tools and act like some players have previously. But I don't know how that can be agreed that Harry Kane won't leave if he wants to leave. So it's music to our ears as Spurs fans, because if we can keep Kane, keep Son, get Conte in, because Conte's the type of manager, I think he can get tune out of Bergwijn. I think he can get tune out of, like, make Reguilon back to where he was at the start. He's that type of manager that can transform players and make. So I caught a bit of what you said yesterday about Victor Moses. You know, he made Victor Moses one of the best wing backs in the league for a season. He does that with players. So with some of the players that we've got in that squad, he can do that. So for me, why most Spurs fans are saying no, we shouldn't get him is beyond me. I don't understand it. For me, he would be the manager to take us forward. I think Poch, don't get me wrong, like I said, he's done good stuff for us previously, but I don't think he's managed to take us forward. It has to be Conte. And if we can keep hold of Kane, Son, and build from there and get some of the players that have already been described back, then it could be, I said a little while ago, I think it's bleak times for Spurs. This is changing my mind, but I don't want to get false promises or say we're going to challenge for the title. But I think this will propel us back to where we were a couple of seasons ago.
It's going to be very, very interesting indeed, no doubt about it. Alan, thank you for coming on the show and having your say, mate. Really appreciate that. Man, thank you. Mansour Ahmed is going to be on next. Liverpool fan in the house. What are you saying, mate?
Hi, Terry. Yeah, I think in regards to the chat, I think as soon as I get involved in the chat, everyone just thinks about my tuchel agenda. So that's what people saying, why are you so salty? Why are you so salty? But hey, I stick to my agenda and I stick to it. Yeah, so in terms of Conte, like in that last call that Alan said, I'm just surprised that Spurs fans still think they're the underdogs. I mean, you were chosen in that European Super League as supposedly one of the big clubs in the world now, commercially and financially. So that mentality of being the underdogs, you're never going to be successful if you have that mentality. But it is surprising that they've gone for Conte, because it'll be quite a clash, because Conte is not a quiet manager. He's not a yes man. He will be in your face. He's a passionate manager, and it will be quite interesting how it develops, if you know what I mean, Terry. So yeah,
it certainly will be. It certainly will be. And you know, maybe this is. I look at it this way: if Tottenham mess this up and they don't back him and it falls away, it may be a very, very long time before another top manager joins their football club, and it will be back to the Graham Potters, back to the Southgates, back to the kind of the lessers, you know, the AVBs of this world. You know what? They took Poch on before he was regarded elite, and he hasn't won a major trophy yet, so a league title or a Champions League. So he still hasn't quite made it into that kind of he isn't quite dining with those people yet. But even to get someone of Poch's level now, you've got to back them, you've got to give them support, and I just don't know if they're quite there and ready. But it's certainly going to be interesting. Go on, mate.
Sorry, Terry. Go on. Sorry, I didn't let you finish. Sorry.
No, go on, mate. You're calling and go for it.
Oh, sorry. Just a quick one on the Doku one. I want to go for Patson Daka's the Doku. I mean, I've seen his stats. Yes, he's 19 years old, but for someone who Liverpool could buy for 3 years older, who's already giving you the goals and assists, you might as well go for him. I mean, Doku might be a generational talent and, you know, wonder boy, but I think at this time, the way Liverpool performed last season, we kind of need a young, ready-made player. That's my opinion on that.
I hear you, bro. Listen, thank you for coming on and having your say, mate. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very, very much indeed. Let's get to some more of your comments that are coming through here just before we end today this evening's show. Let's go through some more of these. Half of them, you guys talking to yourselves. Sharik here says Son staying this season coming will be Kane's last, in my opinion. Haaland's moving next season, thus his move will be a domino effect for Kane. It's interesting, as you say, it's the Conte appointment, I think, changes so much. But as Kristof said earlier, one big mammoth signing for a club and everything can change. Everything can change. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Tarek here says Spurs act like a big club, but expectations are small. The players under Jose Mourinho act like fairies on the pitch. They are not blooded yet. Fans are the same. Yeah, I think Conte has the ability to change that ethos. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Listen, everyone that's tuned in this evening, thank you very, very much indeed. We'll be back later with more content for you. Until then, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again.